Johanna. Our next presentation is a pre-recorded one by Dror Denneboom, and his presentation is a large-scale analysis reveals unimodal and U-shaped effects of traffic volume. So good question last, traffic volume effect on roadkill probability.
Hello, my name is Dror Denneboom. I'm a PhD student at the Technion University in Israel, and here I'm presenting my research on the unimodal and U-shaped effects of traffic volume on roadkill probability. This research was done together with my PhD advisors, Bar-Massada from the University of Haifa and Assaf Shwartz from the Technion University, and in collaboration with the Israel Nature and Parks Authority. Roads and highways impose many negative impacts on wildlife, and wildlife vehicle collisions are one of the major impacts. Collisions with vehicles lead to wildlife mortality, which reduces the long-term persistence of many populations. Species that are mostly impacted by roadkill are characterized by large body sizes, extensive home ranges, species with low reproductive rates, highly mobile species, and seasonal migrators. For example, the mountain gazelle, the striped hyena, and the Eurasian otter, seen in these photos. It is therefore important to understand the factors that affect wildlife vehicle collisions, leading to roadkill. There are various known factors, including traffic volume, vehicle speed, road attributes such as lighting and road barriers, landscape features, temporal factors such as the season, species population density, animal body size, and animal behavior. In this research, the focus was on the effects of traffic volume. It was theorized that traffic volume should have a unimodal effect on roadkill probability, as was suggested by Andreas Seiler in his PhD almost 2 decades ago. This was based on moose vehicle collision data in Sweden. It was suggested that, in theory, at low traffic roads, animals should be able to cross safely, while at high traffic roads, animals will avoid crossing the road completely. Thereby, most roadkill should happen at intermediate values of traffic volumes. This theorized unimodal effect, which is a quadratic effect, was not studied extensively, and so a research gap exists regarding this theory. Only few studies explore the quadratic effects of traffic volume on roadkill probability. Most studies had a small number of roadkill incidents, limited traffic volumes, and small numbers of species were studied, usually only one species per study. Also, many confounding variables were not included in statistical analysis. Our research objective is therefore to better understand the causes of wildlife vehicle collisions in order to improve roadkill mitigation. We ask the following research questions. How are traffic volume and roadkill probability related for various taxa, specifically whether the unimodal effect is supported empirically? We also ask how do road attributes affect roadkill probability? To answer these questions, we used roadkill data gathered by rangers of the Israeli Nature and Parks Authority, the INPA, from 2010 to 2020. Over 22,000 roadkill incidents were collected for 288 species. We chose 20 species with the most roadkill incidents, most of which are medium-sized mammals, along with 2 bird species and 2 snake species. Regarding traffic volume, we used data gathered by the Israel Central Bureau of Statistics from the year 2000 to 2020, which was gathered by using a pneumatic tube system for vehicle counting. And we calculated average daily traffic volumes. The range of traffic volumes is from 300 vehicles per day for low traffic roads up to 148,000 vehicles per day for very high traffic roads, as shown on the traffic volume distribution map of the roads in Israel. We collected data on road attributes using Google Street View and driving surveys. Over 18,000 road points, spaced at 150 meters apart, were collected along almost 3,000 kilometers of road, as seen here in photos from Google Street View. Road attributes include fencing, shoulder width, buildings along the road, roadside vegetation, lighting, median barriers, guardrails, drainage, unpaved roads, parallel roads, the number of lanes, and roadside topography. We also calculated landscape features within a 500-meter radius of road data points. These include the mean slope, the percent of land cover types like croplands or woodlands, and habitat suitability that was calculated for each species using Maxent and used as a proxy for species abundance near the road. Statistical analysis was confined to the distribution range of each species, calculated using kernel density analysis. For example, this is the calculated range of the striped hyena based on hyena occurrence data. We used the GLMM model with logistic regression for analysis with a dependent variable of presence or absence of a roadkill incident within 150 meters of a road data point. Independent variables were those mentioned before, including traffic, road, and landscape variables. We also included confounding variables, both fixed and random. Fixed variables were the season, the lunar phase, and maximal speed limit. Random variables were the year, road section, and INPA ranger working area. For each species, a model with a linear term and a model with a quadratic term for traffic volume were compared using ANOVA and delta AIC to determine if the quadratic effect is significant. We found significant quadratic effects for 6 out of 20 species. The unimodal effect was only found for one species, the striped hyena, with maximal roadkill probability at 23,600 vehicles per day. For 5 other species, a quadratic U-shape effect was found, with a minimum of roadkill probability at intermediate traffic volumes. This was found for the jackal, porcupine, hedgehog, marten, and viper. We also found significant linear effects for 4 out of 20 species. Negative effects were found for 3 species: badger, hyrax, and partridge. A weak positive linear effect was found only for the jungle cat. Regarding the effects of road attributes, various effects were found, and here some selected effects are shown. For example, median barriers, both W-type and concrete, were shown to decrease roadkill of some species, shown here in green, while increasing roadkill of other species, shown in red in the table. Roadside trees and roadside perennials decreased roadkill of several species, specifically the fox and hyena, and the same effect was found for high wall roadside topography. However, roadside bushes increased roadkill of 3 species, and W-type guardrails had the same effect. Bus stops also increased roadkill of 3 carnivore species. We also found that road lighting decreased roadkill of the following 6 species, while increasing speed limit caused increased roadkill for these 4 species. Conclusions regarding the effects of traffic volume. We found that the unimodal effect was limited to the largest carnivore in our study, the striped hyena. This can be explained by the animal's large body size, which leads to better visibility, and its agility, promoting safe crossings on low traffic roads, along with its tendency to avoid high traffic roads. The U-shaped effect, which is novel, was the most common among traffic effects. It was mainly associated with species that are successful adapters to human-dominated landscapes. We suggest that this effect is due to intra-species variability in road avoidance behavior caused by reduced avoidance of anthropogenic disturbances in adapted subpopulations, which leads to reduced avoidance of high traffic roads. We also found that for many species, low traffic roads pose a major risk of wildlife mortality, and mitigation efforts should be directed at these low traffic roads, specifically those that are roadkill hotspots. Regarding road attributes, both median barriers and guardrails either increase roadkill or prevent crossing of various species, and therefore should be avoided where safety considerations allow. Bus stops may cause increased roadkill, probably due to the attraction of wildlife to open waste containers. Road lighting could be used to reduce roadkill for several species, however, excessive light pollution should be avoided. Roadside vegetation is important and should be considered carefully, as trees and perennials may facilitate safe crossings, while dense bushes may cause increased roadkill, probably due to the limited line of sight for both the driver and the animal. These are the references to the papers cited in this presentation. Finally, I would like to thank my research collaborators, my lab members at the Technion, and I would like to thank the audience for listening to this lecture. Thank you.
Hopefully Dror is online and he will join us very soon.
I'm online. Can you hear me? Hello
Fantastic.
there.
We can't hear you though. Try and say something.
You can't hear me?
We can hear you now, thank you.
Oh, excellent.
Perfect.
And I can hear you as well.
Excellent. The technology is working beautifully.
Yes.
That's good. Any questions? Andreas, you get the first question, given he was testing your theory. Microphone.
Thank you very much, Dror. This was a very interesting presentation, and I'm honored that you tested my hypothesis and my studies from a long time ago.
Thank you.
We have been working on that model lately during the past 10 years a bit. We have some further data that actually suggests the model that I presented 20 years ago. So there might be differences between species, but this is exactly what you showed. So that is very interesting to see. The differences I find quite interesting is that, for example, in the European badger, you describe a constant decline in mortality as traffic volume increases. So would you suggest that this is an indication of an increased avoidance, increased barrier effect? Then for the other species, I don't have the slide now in front of me, where you have an increase again, as you have first a decrease as traffic volume increases, and then an increase again with a very busy roads. So how can you explain that again? Could you please be more specific with your ideas on that?
Sure. I'll start with the European badger. Well, we believe that when you see a linear decline or a negative effect, it has to be some sort of an avoidance behavior, because other species are able to try to cross even very high traffic roads. So it's true for the badger and it's true for other species, and we don't have the data for it, of course. It's just an assumption, but we do believe that this is an indicator of an avoidance behavior, and maybe these species find some alternatives. Like the badger is known to use very small underpasses or tunnels to cross roads, so it might be utilizing those in high traffic roads. Regarding the U-shaped effect, which is that was the surprising result of our study. What we try to explain and what we believe is that some species that are adapted to human landscapes may have a reduced avoidance of these high traffic roads because they have a reduced avoidance generally of anthropogenic disturbances. That's what I tried to explain in one of the last slides. A species like the jackal, for example, which has subpopulations that reside in human-dominated landscapes, may be used to noises and lights and all the types of disturbances that come with humans, and therefore these subpopulations, which are also close to very high traffic roads, are more likely to try to cross these roads, and therefore there is a higher probability of roadkill with those populations, and also these individuals that are used to anthropogenic disturbances. That's our explanation for it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for your theory.
Last question.
Congratulations. I like it very much. And
Thank you.
I would like to ask if you have all this data somewhere, kind of publication or report to find it. Because it's really good to see them, but it would be much better to study it. If you have some kind of report to share with us, it will be really great. Thank you.
Okay, I have two answers for this. The first answer is that this is a paper that's it's not reviewed yet. It's still in the process, but I will be publishing it. I hope in the near future as a scientific paper. And the second answer is that the raw data belongs to the Israeli National Parks Authority. They are using now for many years the cyber tracker applications to gather this information. And I was lucky to be able to work with them and get this data, which is not open to the public. So it's not really open source data. It belongs to a certain governmental agency in Israel.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dror, for your presentation and for joining us online.
Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it.